What is a giveaway that a new job will be awful? When the employers are hard selling the position or use the phrase make up to $. I'll let you in on a secret, you will not make anywhere near that much money. Every time you request a personal day off or vacation time, your boss says it's inconvenient for you to be away then, and to ask again at a later date, you feel dismissed, undervalued and not appreciated for the good work you do. Lack of safety regulations. If you get there and the first day notice that they cut corners with things regarding safety, it says a lot about the company and how it views its employees. Found that out at my current job within the first day. Hey, why is there no safety shower? Where is the chemical waste container? What do you mean pour it down the sink? That is illegal. What do you mean? You need someone to introduce you to your new position. You're supposed to know what you're doing. That's why we hired you. If there is a crappy box of donuts or some other crap in the break room once a week and it's the only thing that seems to spur anything like joy in the employees there. When you meet your boss or co-workers that you will be seeing on a daily basis and just understand that there is a personality clash. You can get around that. I avoided my boss for about 18 months of one job. Can't count on both hands the amount of times I actually talked to him personal or business related. During that time, Tom, you are insufferable. Having way too many bosses or people directly above you, without a clear hierarchy, and if they can't even give you an idea of the average day's workflow schedule tasks. Bonus points if they treat it as borderline insubordination to communicate when conflicting orders compete for your time. You're supposed to just get it done instantly. When the HR lady took me to a quiet room to fill in some forms at my first day and then looked around to check no one was looking at us and told me get out while you can. When HR is telling you to get out, freaking run. When people at work there can tell that you're excited and start mentioning that'll change soon. When the job description doesn't match the actual job that you'll be doing. If they ask you to start early and burn a bridge with your current employer. Every company ever has asked me about the last one. I always respond that I have to tie up ends with my current employer and would extend the same courtesy to them if I were to leave. If you show up to a job interview and they more or less hire you on the spot, it's a sign that they're desperate. From my experience anyway. I thought that was just because I was so amazing. You start getting department-wide emails from one person complaining about another person not doing their job. If you see this happen twice, start looking for a new job ASAP. We're like a family. The last job I had, I was told this. I'm not surprised because meetings devolved to shouting matches that were initiated by management. So much this. The worst companies I've worked for all refer to themselves as family. The best acknowledge that it's a job and a trade of my service for their compensation. Every time a customer doesn't buy the most expensive version of the product you're selling, manager. So let's talk about what went well with that customer. And let's also talk about what maybe could have gone better. Pro tip, if you get a little coaching session, talking to every time a customer is shopping on a budget, you're in an extremely toxic environment. It will foster self-loathing, addictive habits, a feeling of helplessness, and weight gain. And you will develop a growing tendency to lie to and manipulate your customers. A few things I look for is 1. All the cars in the parking lot are beaters. Not to judge people on their cars. Some people don't mind saving cash and buying them. But everyone except a few mean there are some big pay divides. 2. If you go for a tour and you notice the workers look on edge or are stressed, not a grin to be found, chances are it will most likely be a hostile work environment. People arguing in the main reception about getting screwed over by the boss by getting their overtime cancelled at Christmas. Source. Went for an interview where the production manager and employees were yelling at one another in front of me while I was waiting to go in. No one attempted to move away or quieting down. Nope the frick out of that one. I was hired to a newly created position at a luxury car dealership group. The GM of the dealership I was at, corporate offices were upstairs there, wanted nothing to do with me and thought the VP was an idiot for making this position and hiring me. Basically it was going to be scheduling appointments with new customers to install their license plates and tutor them on their infotainment systems. The first 3 days I was there I was given no place to work, no desk, no computer, no phone, etc. I was given no schedule, no dress code, no tasks, no training materials. I was told to go figure out how the systems in the cars worked and that was it. So I did that as best I could, except they wouldn't give me keys to any vehicles. The GM just ignored me constantly, so I went to the VP to express some concerns and he called in the GM to sort it out. As soon as we left that room it went back to the way it was. I did what I could with what I was given, but if I had no computer or phone, how could I schedule appointments and meet customers? Without a schedule, how would I know when to come in? I quit that first week. For $12 an hour I was over his BS. IDK. Seems like the kind of job you just sit in the car all day and read it. After a long and exhaustive job search I finally got an offer, but the salary was a bit on the low side and I'd be taking a pay cut from my previous job, even though I was unemployed at that moment in time. So I called the HR lady at like 9 AM. So I had a good chance of reaching her, and I said I'm really excited to come work there, but I'd like to see if there's anything additional that can be done salary wise. She says hang on, I'm at the grocery store, I'll get to it later, but then says well, why don't you just call your future boss? I hadn't talked to the guy outside of a short interview and had been working through her the whole time. I felt uncomfortable addressing it to him, since I hadn't really interacted with him. So I tell her I'd prefer if she does. Also she's HR. So, she emails him from her phone. He responds with just number and she forwards that to me, without any comments. Doesn't try to sugarcoat it, etc. Just a weird and unprofessional vibe. Like they weren't even trying to fake like they had their crap together. Wound up spending 3.5 years there and it was awful. It's such a horribly run company that's spinning down the toilet. Spent much of that time looking for a new job. On the bright side, at least you got paid to look for a new job. When you get asked to take over the outgoing IT manager's job, and a couple weeks later get the title IT assistant instead. When they tell you that per state law, they don't have to give you any breaks in 8 hours besides 30 minutes for lunch. Whether it's legal or not, it's bad management. Short breaks help people retain focus, especially at monotonous jobs. They are also a small price to pay for employee morale. This is a job where the boss thinks they own you, like equipment, because you're in the clock. On your first day, someone gets fired. There are weekly all-hands meetings where the owner of the company rants about how crappy everyone is. The owner disappears for a few days. Her husband was calling the office trying to find her. Eventually she was involuntarily committed to the psych ward. Those three were all on one job. They specify that they want you to be flexible with your work schedule. In my experience it only ever flexes one way, which is me spending more and more of my own time on work. Or else never knowing what your schedule will be from day to day, or week to week, which is almost as bad because it prevents you from being able to plan anything in advance. High turnover. I was hired to consult for a large fitness company most Americans are familiar with. They wanted me to observe their sales call center. I told them I'd like to start the gig on a week in which they were starting a new training class so I could observe that as well. The director looked at me with a puzzled expression on her face and explained that they always had training classes going. It was a call center of about 50 people and the training classes that lasted 2 weeks were 30 people deep. That means that even if half the class fails training, they are replacing 15 out of 50 people every 2 weeks. Years later I still think about that place and how depressing it was. Thankfully I was only there for 6 weeks. I hate burn and churn sales environments. And nowadays I choose not to consult for companies who don't believe in investing in the happiness of their sales force. And then they hire people and no one gets fired or quits for a month and they don't have enough desks for the people they hired. When your boss asks you how you would react if an authority figure were to get drunk at work and scream obscenities at you. Hypothetically, of course. If there's a permanent now hiring, inquire within sign. A few places in my area have these. There's a reason for that. Lots of national level companies do this now though, to encourage a steady stream of applicants for a short replacement time. I've gotten calls 6 months after I put in an application because it sat banked and there was no real position offered at the time. When they completely neglect employee wellness for revenue, the two usually go hand in hand when done correctly. Traditionally, happy employees make for happy shareholders. First day at the new job for a healthcare company, went to the department and the guy who had hired me had transferred. His replacements flat out told me they didn't want or need me but showed me where my desk was and that was that. Worst year ever as the company was going to get merged and had hired consultants to look for redundancies. People were quitting like crazy and I went through, like, 5 managers. Then the merger failed and the executives gave themselves nice bonuses for leading the company through a difficult change. People were still quitting though. Greatest feeling was when I added my resignation to the stack. Oh, and during that year I taught myself mid-access programming. This was way back in the day, and created my own internal clients to keep me busy. They are suspiciously vague in the description of your duties. Worse when this is coupled with generic skill requirements. I've only ever had 4 jobs and one of them bad, but I can give a general sense. 1. You interview with multiple people but it's not a smooth process. Or, Shirley, reception. Where the heck is Jim? He's supposed to be doing an interview today. Oh, he totally forgot. He's in a meeting. He'll be out in 30 minutes. I've interviewed at a few companies that conducted hiring very poorly. I had several 2-3 hour interviews with a good 30 minutes of downtime while the people who wanted to talk to me were found taking breaks to do stuff while interviewing me. This was pretty annoying as interviewing for jobs is already exhausting and time consuming. 2. The job description is either too vague or too hyper specialized. Unless you have a very unique set of skills in a niche industry or are applying for a general labor position, a well-crafted job description is an indicator of a good job. Otherwise you could end up in a job where you're doing extremely boring stuff or stuff you're unqualified for, or you could be micromanaged and expected to do way too much. 3. The office seems quite dull. If you don't hear phones ringing, people chatting, the buzz of meetings, etc. This could be an indicator of a company under stress. You could be getting hired to replace someone in a sinking ship or being hired to replace an experienced, high-paid professional, and you will become an 80-hour-week slave to replace them. If the interview seems like a pitch, the job will suck. If you hear the phrase work hard play hard anytime during the hiring process or in the job listing, the job will suck. If you interview with more than 2 managers at once, the job will suck. They're looking for an entry-level candidate. This normally means they're looking to pay below average, and it will take 2+ years to get to industry standard for that position. But the catch is, you'll be worked just as hard as someone who gets median or above average pay. This can also mean they're looking for someone interested in the field with no bad habits yet. And also when accepting a job like that you should probably think of it as gaining experience and plan to jump ship for better pay at another place once you've gained said experience. When it's an inclement weather day and most other businesses are shut down, but management still tries to get everyone to drive into work, except for management themselves, because it's dangerous. This is a small one, but it's never steered me wrong. If your immediate supervisor refuses to get your name right in the interview or on the first day, they probably won't respect you as a person in bigger ways as well. Getting it wrong accidentally is one thing, especially if they accept a correction graciously. I'm talking about deliberately renaming you. I have an unusual and long, but easy to pronounce, first name. Every good job I've worked, hiring manager has said what do you prefer to be called and passed the word along to supervisors. Every crappy job, someone asks can I just call you something else? Your name is too much work. If getting your name right is too much work, your vacation requests, raises, and promotions will be too. Sits down on first day with new manager. The first thing you should know about me is that I don't micromanage. We're all adults here. Hint, he's gonna be a micromanager. Yeah, unfortunately that often translates to I have a very specific idea of what an adult is and if you don't meet that I'll have to micromanage. If the interview was just too good, If they seem too eager to hire, it means they don't value my skills and only value the fact that a replacement is here for the job they're trying to fill. I left one failing company to find out the first day of my new job that the new company was failing as well. I was brought on as an assistant controller and told to familiarize myself with the books because the following day the bank was coming in to check everything out and determine how much longer we'd be around. The interviewer is selling you on the job more than you're selling yourself on getting hired. That happened to me a few years back. I got the impression the interviewer was stressed out from the workload of doing both her job and the job she was hiring for. She offered to help me rewrite my resume, coach me on what to say to the next set of interviewers, etc. Really pulling out all the stops to get me hired. That's never happened before and she seemed desperate to hand off the work. This will sound woo-woo, but I could just feel the stress in that office. Although it was a nice modern office, and workers were chatting away normally, I just felt this pressure there. What drove it home was returning to the office at the job I had at the time, and I instantly felt lighter and relieved. The interviewer emailed several times to try to get me to take the job. I politely declined. About a year later, I was eating lunch in the area and a girl stopped and said my name. She was super cheerful and happy. It took me a minute to realize it was the interviewer. I literally didn't recognize her because she was smiling. She was dead serious in the interview. Her face looked completely different. She sat down with me and we caught up. She had moved on to another company and was very satisfied. She admitted she was stressed out at the previous company, and I was smart not to work there. If everyone at the job seems busy all the time, it means either of the two things. A. The company overworks its employees. B. The company rewards presence and not actual work. Either ways, it is not a good situation to be in. B. The company rewards presence and not actual work. Let you in on a little secret. That's how most businesses operate. Otherwise, managers would have to understand what their employees actually did. When the company is big enough that your responsibilities should be filled by 3-4 people but they are only hiring one person to do it, covering morning, afternoon, and night shift. When your responsibilities per the job description keep changing and more keep getting added. When you walk into the place in 2014 and you think you've time traveled back to the 1940s. We're a high-paced agile environment where we push the limitations, also known as, you're in a death spiral and if you don't burn out you'll want to blow your brains out. 401k contribution, we hope to in the next couple of years. Hours, 7:35, 30-minute lunch. Pay, if you could make XXX. Immediately get pulled into office drama in the first week. Management, let's give you the skinny here. People don't like Jash. Jash is terrible. Jash, management, let me give you the skinny here. I'm Jash, and you should stay away from Carl, producer, isn't Jash the worst? The only person worse than Jash is We should be friends. Tammy, associate coffee drinker, Carl sucks butt. Did you hear what he and Darla got up to last Christmas party? Well, Jash says to he says. Serious answer, if the metrics you are evaluated by are based on things you don't have the authority to control, you are set up to fail. This is super common and very overlooked based on my informal findings. When you sit down at your desk on your very first day and find a post-it note under the keyboard that says, "Dear God, no, run." That was the highlight of the whole morning. The whole office was miserable. You could taste it in the coffee. I went to lunch. Did not return. Your hours are flexible. That's why you can stay late to finish your work. AKA you're salaried now, which means we can overwork you and not worry about paying you for it. I might take some heat for this, but Christian companies, I've found them to be the most willing to frick over their employees and expect them to take it without complaint because Jesus. They can also be surprisingly discriminatory, almost blatantly so. It can almost be worse if you're Christian but not of a denomination friendly to upper management's liking. They also tend to be some of the most micromanaging places. Owners will be all up in the day-to-day business in very uncomfortable ways. They also pay for crap. There is chicken wire on the sides of the staircases and the windows can be only open up less than 4 inches to keep the employees from jumping through the windows or jumping off the staircases. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.